Fuck it. We're live. It's all happening. We're back. We are back for our second show this week. We did that a couple weeks ago. We don't often do 2 shows in 1 week, but we care so much about you, our dear friends, that we wanted to do it. Isn't that right, guys?
That's right.
I mean, I just missed you guys. I'm sorry I couldn't be here the other day. Thank you for fielding my comments and questions from the chat as I lay paralyzed, unable to sit up and be on camera.
That's not good. Thanks for being a participant anyway, you know?
Is it synergy or serendipity that we are back after our episode on Monday to review these last 2 shows? I'm just going to throw my cards out there.
I think it's just planning.
Interesting. That's definitely a different way of looking at it, Jonathan. Thanks a lot. All right. Well,
I think our comments definitely help move the shows forward, though.
Yeah. It's funny to watch and try to chime in while everyone's talking, right, Jonathan?
Yeah, actually, it's a blast watching you guys and like throwing it out and like, no, this is the thing they need to know, and know that having sitting on this side, knowing that I can see those comments, but sometimes you're just sitting there going, "Shut up, Jonathan," or
No, never. What I liked about it is that there were a couple times when you disagreed with us, and we were like, "Oh well."
Yeah.
We don't have to put it up here.
Nothing we can do now. Okay, so we're gonna start talking about this 2-night run in St. Louis, as we have done a couple times, but not very much. I just want to start with a little bit of history. Brian, I know you'd like to start with some history.
Always.
Okay, so these were the number 11 and number 12 shows Phish has ever played in St. Louis, Missouri. We talked a little bit last week or a couple days ago about the 2012 shows and some of the previous shows, but the first shows in St. Louis were at a club called Mississippi Nights, one at 3/30/92 and one on December 4th, 1992. This was a 1,000-cap venue that opened in 1967 and closed in 2007. There's an oral history of Mississippi Nights out there if you search for it, but that's not where they played last night.
For a venue. That is so awesome.
And guess what? It's on the Mississippi River.
There's YouTube footage from that show that I highly recommend seeking out. The footage of the Weekapaug Groove is one of my favorite things that is online about Phish. It's this tiny club and the band is so compact on stage, but every person in the audience is moving in unison with the beat. It is so unbelievable to watch. And it just tells you like this thing was catching on like wildfire.
That's awesome. I didn't even know you were gonna chime in with that, Brian. Look at that. It's called synergy.
History, man.
History. Synergy.
History, synergy, context, serendipity.
History, synergy.
Okay. No. So we let me see. I wonder if our people on the other platforms know that they have to watch us on YouTube now. I think we try, but
we try to tell them, but it's hard.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's talk about these 2 shows. Actually, first of all, Megan, what's happening next Wednesday in Grand Rapids? Anything that you know of?
Yeah, something super fun. We're having an HF Pod happy hour. At Founders. So Grand Rapids is going to be so lit up next week. All the hotels are sold out downtown. We're going to have great weather, knock on wood, and it's just going to be super fun. We're going to be at Founders from 4 to 6:30, and I'll be there. RJ will be there. Brian and Jonathan will be there in spirit. And we hope everybody comes by and says hi. And I'm going to have slaps to hand out, HF Pod stickers. Like, come on. So everybody should come by. Say hi.
How close is that to the concert, or is that the day before?
It's in walking distance. Very close. Everything is right downtown. I think it's like a 8-minute walk or something.
Oh, downtown Grand Rapids is so cool. And the Founders Brewery rules. I spent some time there about 10 years ago. It is interesting you mentioned that all the hotels are already booked downtown. I got a text from a friend who's in St. Louis yesterday who said, hey, did you know that Phish is in St. Louis? And I said, yes, I was aware. And he was like, man, there's just Phish heads everywhere downtown.
Yep.
That is so awesome.
I think that's what Grand Rapids is about to get.
Smallish venue in St. Louis, right, Jake? It's not that huge, right?
I think it's like 10,000. Yeah, it's just tripping me out because like Grand Rapids was not cool when I grew up there. It was not cool. Like it wasn't. There was nothing downtown, and I did theater down there, and it was just kind of like desolate. And now it's had this huge renaissance, and it's just like a cool place to live now. So I'm really excited to go back and see what it's like. I remember 30 years ago this fall when I went to my first fish show in Grand Rapids, downtown Grand Rapids at DeVos Hall, and I remember just like losing my mind, seeing all these people that look like deadheads, like there in my hometown. And I can't wait to do it again.
Upper Midwest, dude. It's coming back. Grand Rapids, Milwaukee, Madison, Minneapolis, Scranton. Come on. We got a lot of good stuff going on there.
Home of JRB. You know?
You're going to write a spy novel about him pretty soon. It's going to be awesome.
Guys, you know what, Brian? You want to hear something interesting?
Always,
guess
RJ.
Guess what the low temperature is going to be in Grand Rapids both nights that we're there?
88.
Nope.
50, is it like
58?
Flannel weather, baby.
Lovely. That is flannel weather. Man, I was there. I was there in the fall of 2014, and it was like foliage, 45, 55 degrees, crisp days. It was absolutely perfect. Great beer drinking weather. I was there for a conference. Really, really cool stuff. And I just fell in love. And I was like, maybe I'll move here. And then I never did.
Pure Michigan.
It's
underrated.
I don't know about you guys, but you know, we should talk about the concerts. But as this summer has worn on, the thing that happens to me every year is that right around now,
you do a Brian impression and fade out, freeze.
I'm gonna guess where he's going with this. Right around now, I think that summer is not my favorite season anymore. The way it was as a kid. Yeah, there he goes. He's coming.
Oh, yeah, suckers!
Wow.
You go through the winter thinking, you know, I wish it was summer, and I'm sitting there in the winter going, no, you don't. And
no,
here we are, and I'm right.
Yes, you do.
I love the fall. I love the winter. I'm just saying that the 8-week period between mid-September and mid-November, or even through mid-December, the 3 months, it's just the best. It's the best.
Great.
I can't wait.
August,
nothing like
trash.
August sucks. Except unless you're going to Grand Rapids to see fish.
Yeah. I mean, or exactly. Except when you're at a fish concert.
Look what I got in the mail today, you guys.
Oh, bracelet. Look at that.
Aww. Bracelet time.
I know.
Someone's going.
It was a really good mail day today. I got that, and I got a postcard from my daughter from camp that says, "Hi, Mom and Dad. They're making us write these." Okay. That was the beginning line. So.
Yes. Great. Sounds
great.
Love those. You know, when you are at Mondegreen, I hope they have the on-site post office, and you can go there and write a card to your kid and say, "Hi, they're making us write these."
Yes, I'm going to do it. It's such a good idea.
Friend of mine found and shared the other day, it was maybe a couple weeks ago, a card I wrote to him from Big Cypress. And how cool is that, right?
That is so cool.
Take advantage of that.
Okay, I'm going to do that. Thanks, Jonathan. I need all these tips. I've never been, you know, I need everybody to send me all their festival tips.
Nice. I'll come up with a few more.
Okay.
It's going to be great. You're going to have a great time. Maybe I'll see you there. Maybe not. Still don't know. But we'll find out.
I love this. Just like right up to the wire here. It's so fun.
Should we listen to a voicemail? Because we need to delay talking about the shows for some reason.
Always.
So let's just
it's only 9 minutes into the podcast. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
Right. Usually we're like, where are we here? Right here? Can you guys hear this?
There you go. I can see it.
Hey, how's it going? This is Adam calling in. It has been a minute. And I find myself in the car right now driving from Chicago to St. Louis. I'm doing the entire Midwest run, which was a last-minute decision.
Best way to do it.
And I just hopped in the car, picked up a buddy in Chicago to do Alpine. Those shows were really great. Thought they stood out. Even, you know, went a lot deeper than Mansfield. Where I started tour, But yeah, I just decided to hop in my car because I have a new job, which is why I haven't called in a while. So anyway, you know, you guys featured me a bunch in the past on the podcast, and I plan to check out one of your events. And I'd love to network and talk about the new business that I'm working on, totally aside from anything podcast related. So now that I'm on the road, I'm going to be tuning in again, and I look forward to hearing what you got to say this summer. And anyway, thanks for doing the podcast.
Look at that. So there you go. So, you know, first of all, thanks for calling in. Second of all, we're going to be pitched. We're going to be pitched a business.
Awesome.
Thirdly, make sure you're on hands free when you're doing that, guys. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
drive safe.
Look at this, Ryan Kramer. I haven't heard from you in a while. What's up, man? Heading to Deer Creek tomorrow. Not with Jason. That's sad. Have fun, Ryan. Thanks for checking us out, checking in. All right. So should we talk about the shows?
Let's.
I mean, can we talk about that? It's Jerry's birthday also right now. Instead of, again, I'm wearing a Jerry T-shirt and okay, no, that's all. I just you know, go listen to Grateful Dead maybe after this, like I'm gonna do. That's all I got really. Compelling. Oh well, I would also maybe plug my podcast. I don't know if you guys know, but the Broke Down podcast is back from hiatus as of this week, and dropped a new episode just the other day. I talked with Andy Logan, who founded Grateful Guitars Foundation. He's the guy who currently stewards the alligator guitar. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's a guitar. It has an alligator on it. It belonged to Mr. Jerry Garcia. Anyways, we had a great chat, and that is out now wherever you get your podcasts.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good work getting it back on. And it's hard.
Yeah.
You know,
more to come.
It's a hard business we're in. But sometimes you know what keeps us all going is you
naps.
People who are listening. No, and naps.
Oh,
and naps.
That too.
And here's just one more. There's one more voicemail about how awesome we are.
RJ, Megan, Brian, Jonathan, Chris Clark, Cleveland, Ohio. Just want to let you guys know you are crushing it this summer. I've loved all the mix-up of episodes, but in particular, the venue draft got me thinking. I had the pleasure of schedule-wise only going to Saturday Alpine and Tuesday St. Louis.
Nailed it.
Wow.
Nice work.
Great being an indoor venue Tuesday night. Looking forward to Grand Rapids next week. Seeing you guys at Founders.
Look at that.
Up to great work. Cheers.
Like word is spreading.
That's so nice.
It is really nice.
Not only is word spreading, but that dude, he everybody should just follow him around.
Yeah,
he's got the mojo.
Nice work, guy.
Yeah. He, actually, well, we don't have to go into it, but I think that Chris and I met in Mexico a couple of years ago.
Right on.
Good dude. Okay, so guys, what do you guys think about this run, this 2-night run? If you go down to St. Louis, catch 2 nights, you're heading back to wherever you live today. How are you feeling about the 2-night run?
I think you're feeling awesome.
Yeah, really
I thought
good.
they were 2 extremely hot shows with a lot to dig into across type 1.5 jams, song selection, flow, jamming. I mean, come on. This was awesome. This was as high quality as I think we've seen this year outside of Mexico. And the fact that they're coming off this run and going to a venue like Deer Creek with a lot of history, I feel really, really cool as a Fish fan today, which is a rare feeling.
I mean, anybody who and I'm sure there's plenty who just saw these shows because your calendar or your job, your kids at camp or whatever, you've done well. 2 quality shows, great stuff, all night long, both nights.
Yeah, fantastic shows. I think one thing that's been exciting for me is that there's so much to listen back to and dig into. And I hear like the evolution of sound happening. There's something going on in these jams that sounds different to me, and it's slow and it's hard for me to articulate right now, but especially in the Ruby Waves, I keep listening to it and there's something happening, and I'm excited. We'll talk about it more when we talk about the jams, but I think there's a lot to these jams. Aren't just kind of jams you listen to and you're like, yeah, that was a cool jam. It was long, but they're really interesting and I'm excited about them.
I think that's more than anything. I think the point you made about something new sounding in these jams is something I resonated with. I felt last night when I was watching the Mr. Completely and the Ruby Waves in particular sounded like something. There's a different sound, whatever they've been kind of working towards, the lack of overt synthesizers in the music, a lot of emphasis on whatever Mike is doing during transitional moments as the jam kind of keeps pushing. A lot of that is leading to this kind of guitar driven, kind of sad melodic type of jamming with a bit of like an industrial edge, but there's no synthesizers, so it's hard to like really, it's this like kind of watery tone that Trey's been playing with. The effects Mike's using, like, I think you're absolutely right that something feels like it feels like there's like almost a corner that's been turned in terms of wherever they're going sonically from an evolutionary standpoint. And I think we heard kind of a big leap forward last night and in parts of the Tweezer.
It's funny, everything you said I agree with, but you left out John Fishman, who is relentless through these jams.
Totally.
He's not laying out, they're not like, this Tweezer is 41 minutes long, and I know I'm getting ahead and getting into details, but like there's no deep space segment. There's no part where he just kind of like lays out and like jangles the ride or whatever. It's just like, it's on.
Yeah.
My first like half listen to Tweezer, I and I admit it wasn't a focused listen. I was like, I think I texted you guys. It's like, does this even go type 2? We're 20 minutes in. And yes, it kind of does, but it was just like always like driving the whole time. And that's wow. It's great.
Yeah, there's this repetitive thing that Trey's doing, like catching a melody or repeating a riff, and it's really propelling jams forward. And him and Fishman are just like moving them forward in a way that is just feeling a little different to me. And then also this feeling of like when they are finding moments of bliss, there's like, we talked about this last week, like this, or earlier in the week, there's like an undercurrent of something darker, and it allows them to go between dark and light, like really, really quickly and really effortlessly. And that was something that I noticed last night or 2 nights ago in the Tweezer, and then definitely in the Mr. Completely and Ruby Waves too. Just really interesting seeing how they're going between light and dark so fast. And I think it's because they're not playing either just a typical bliss jam or a typical dark jam.
One additional point, just kind of stepping back because we're getting very deep into the music before RJ's even had a chance to play his clips that we queued up today.
Or answer my own question.
Or answer your own question. I don't even remember the question now, but I'm just going to plow forward with the stats that I brought to the podcast.
Let's do it.
So I was flipping through the set list and I was flipping through the gap chart on fish.net, which, we give you guys at fish.net some grief every so often. I love the gap chart. I'm so here for it. I am so here for the gap chart. I think it is one of the coolest tools, and it allows you this really interesting insight into just the way the catalog works and what constitutes kind of a rarities night. Because at this point in time, we have so many songs that are in the catalog and in the rotation that a lot of unsuspecting songs become rarities, which has happened this year. We've seen a lot of rare songs that you're like, wait, when was the last time this was played? 2 years ago for Hoarse and Silent? Are you kidding me? So I was just going through the tour. 4 of the, what have we had, 12 shows at this point in time, 10 shows at this point in time, 4 of those shows have had 15 plus average song gaps within them, which is really rare. Like usually we see somewhere in the range of like 10 to 12 shows. So 721, which was night 3 of Great Woods, had a 24 show gap on an average in terms of the songs that were played within the overall rotation. 726, which was night one of Alpine, had a 26 show gap average. 730, a little bit lower, but still pretty significant, 16 show gap average. And last night had a 21 show gap average. Now, you wouldn't, last thing, like you wouldn't look at those set lists and think like there's a bunch of rarities, but it is kind of wild that like they're playing songs that were 1 to 2 eras prior in the rotation, don't feel like major bust outs, but are keeping the set list really fresh. And I think offering for the band kind of a new sound to tap into as they're playing through.
Yeah. It's funny. He dropped off right
So
where I think he was making his point. But I wanted to add that, looking at the 7:30 show, for example, to keep it focused on St. Louis slightly, the Cars, Truck, Buses is on a 47 show gap when they played it on 7:30. But that's only July 19th, 2023. That's 1 year.
Yeah, right.
So they've been playing a lot of shows that compounded with the massive catalog they're toying with these days. And they can just come out and rip a Cars, Truck, Buses that they haven't played on stage in a year. And it's great. And what a killer way to open a show. RJ, do you want to answer your own question? No, sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Nah, it's okay. I had a whole thing I was going to ask you guys about, but at this point, I think I'm going to save it for the next episode. I think it's just too much. But I think, well, I guess one part of it is that, we're so spoiled as Phish fans. And I feel like people were like, during the first set of the first night of St. Louis, people were like, it's fine. And, that's true, I guess. But like, but also, there were some really nice moments of that. And I guess I'm just there's a downside to being Phish right now, which is that like, unless you're doing a 20-minute jam in the first set, people are like, this set is very like,
totally.
It's fine. But it's like, because they do deliver the things they deliver, we expect them to. It's like when, Brian knows, when Bryce Harper comes up in the 9th inning and they're down by 1 run, like you expect him to do something because he often does that. But like with Phish, I feel like it's unfair to them, but also this is an ongoing conversation we've had for years. Maybe it's not unfair to them.
You use the word spoiled. You're totally right. Because like sticking to these 2 shows, the first sets are great. Like there's nothing bad in these shows. There's nothing played poorly in these 2 shows. And if you walk out of these shows and you have complaints, I have complaints about you.
I mean, I think that there's points of discussion. Like I think if the second sets followed thematically what the first sets did, it would be a very different take. I think that the way that people are, at least in my inner circle, I'm guessing the internet is similar in this sense, but probably slightly angrier. Like there's a sense of they played solid first sets, not like the most notable first sets, just kind of solid. Although night one had that great theme from the bottom and Gotta Jaboo, I should note. But the second sets really raised the bar. And I think to RJ's point, like after 41 years, like, yeah, there's a level of expectation in terms of what this band can do because of what they've done before and what they continue to do. I think if they were still playing the way that they played in early 3.0, we would have different conversations about it because that would be a nostalgic act. Like this is a band that is trying to continue to reinvent themselves and take challenges and take risks. And I think when you don't see that, there's conversation around it.
Well, let's talk about that. A couple things on that. So the word expectations, if you walk in with expectations, you're going to disappoint yourself 90% of the time, because the thing you carry in, you think Phish is going to do, Phish's biggest achievement is defying expectations. That's what they do.
100%.
So if you want to have expectations, that's you setting yourself up. When Phish comes out and plays, and I'm just going to look at night one, pretend we're on topic, and comes out and opens with Cars, Truck, Buses, haven't played it in a year. Slammin' got a Jaboo. NICU's, if it's not bad, then it's always good. Ocelot's fine. Evolve's great. Great theme from the bottom. Vultures is awesome. I saw somebody complain about wooing. I'm sorry. Vultures is the song where you woo. So shut up, guy. And then a banging Timber. And then everything's right. There's zero wrong with this set. Is it set 1? Sure. They also play a 40-minute Tweezer in set 2. This is a show that you should walk away with and saying, this is exactly what I want from a Phish show.
100%
This
agree.
is an absolutely great Phish show. And the next one will be completely different and also great. And I can't fathom complaining. I don't think you guys are. I can't fathom complaining about this. Like, could Phish do a 40-minute song in set 1? Sure, but they don't have to. They did it in set 2.
I don't think people were really complaining about this set, though. I think people were complaining about Alpine Night 3, but I don't think people were complaining about
I think Alpine Night 3 is a fine show. It's not.
That's right.
Night 2.
It is a fine show, but yeah.
It's a fine show.
I think to say that you don't go in with expectations, to me, is just unrealistic, because this band has such a high level of excellence that everybody wants that. And so to say that you shouldn't want that is just unrealistic for a lot of people.
I'm not saying you shouldn't want Phish to play a good show. I think you need to check your expectations right about there, because what is a good show is going to be different from night to night, set to set.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the one like point that you're making that I would just break off is, it's if you walk in saying my expectation is that we get a 40-minute Tweezer tonight and we get a Harpua and we get this, anything short of that, I'm going to be pissed off. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, part of the joy of this band is that you go in and you're never going to see the same show again. Right. And sometimes what they throw out connects, and it's wild to see it happen in the moment. And it's like, you know, part of the reason I always compare this to baseball is because you have that moment of a player comes up and they could face a pitcher that knows exactly how to attack them and they can't do anything about it. But in those rare instances, that player makes the adjustment, and magic happens. Megan knows all about this because of Bobby Thompson.
The shot heard around the world.
That's it. So, like, I don't think that the expectation game, because we're midway through the tour, like, this is when those types of things come into play. The expectation game, I think, is, I am going to one of 4 Phish shows I will see this tour or this year. I would like to see something that hits me in the way that the best Phish shows I've seen have hit me. If it doesn't, is that the end of the world? No. Is it worth discussing and having a conversation about? I think so. If people don't like having that conversation, then they aren't probably on a podcast.
Yeah, and I also think that. Go ahead, Jonathan, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
I want to counter this because I think we're actually in broad agreement here that every Phish show pretty much every Phish show that happens and has ever happened is probably somebody's favorite show, at least that week. It may not persist as their favorite show for 20 years. Citing, for example, maybe somebody's experience in 2.0, but not every baseball game is the same.
Nope.
You might go to a baseball game and you want to see a bunch of hitting, but it's really a pitching game. It's a pitching battle, and you're not seeing any hitting, and you're disappointed because you want to see balls hit, but somebody else is sitting there watching the pitches, looking at the speed and recognizing that kind of game and really engrossed in that game.
Yeah, which is what makes
that
it fun.
Guy's having the night of his life, and somebody else is like, boring, and walks out. Well, that guy, you can be bored, but you might, again, you walk in looking for one thing, you're not looking for the thing that's happening in front of you. You got to let that thing happen in front of you and try to understand what it is. And then you're likely to be more rapt.
But that's kind of the magic of it, is that you might be a hitting person and the other person might be a pitching person, but that's why you get to talk about it and debate about it and argue about what was interesting to you and what was not. And that, I think, is what's so great, because every Phish show I go to, Wilmington Night 1 last year, had the time of my fucking life. I'm going to have the best time. But I love to listen back to the music and think, what was great about it? What wasn't? What was transcendent? What wasn't? And debate that and argue that. That's, to me, is compelling.
I'm not saying, and I don't think I've ever said, that we shouldn't debate and discuss it. I'm saying that you need to walk in ready to see the Phish show that Phish is going to play, not the Phish show that you came to see.
That's fair. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's all also just like now because there's webcasting, it's 100 times as many people that have that game of like, are they doing what Phish, are they ready for what Phish is going to do?
It's very easy to
Totally
sit
agree.
at home and be blasé about the experience.
Yeah.
That may be substantially better when you're there, even if it's still just a, average great, thank you, Charlie Dirksen, Phish show.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to say that I don't really like Ocelot very much, and the first in that first set, there's some great like Dead vibes in there. There's some amazing piano work by Paige. I think that was really fun. That Ocelot I thought was great, and the theme was great. The Jabu like went off the beaten path a little bit, and the Cars, Trucks, Buses opener, as you said, Jonathan. I think like it was a good set. I had fun listening to it.
Timber's got a little extra mustard as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of everything had a little like they were pushing a little bit on every song, which is great. But now we should talk about Tweezer, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Do it.
It's something that happened, and people are talking about it. The first thing that I noticed, just in terms of being a Tweezer person, one of the only ones who really likes this song out there.
Yeah, it's just you.
It's me. Is that
We didn't do a draft about it earlier this year.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
There's like a peak early on, like 10 minutes in, and I think they then kind of just like it kind of carries along in this like I don't know, it's just sort of a floating pleasant jam for like several minutes, but it doesn't seem like that they're in any hurry to go anywhere. And that's like probably 15 minutes of this 40 minutes. It could have ended and just gone into the next song because they'd kind of like done the peak. Then it's like the floating could have floated into any song, but then they start like pushing sort of more intentionally, I think, to maybe try to find their footing or something. And then it just gets there's crazy. I got a couple of clips here, but I want to know like what you've listened to it how many times, Jonathan, and how do you feel about it now?
Probably about 5 times, which
Nice.
is a lot considering I don't listen to I when Phish isn't on tour, guys, I'm really not listening to much Phish, to be honest with you. But right now I'm listening to a lot of Phish. And yeah, I agree. It's like after 8 minutes, we're into Tweezer jam. Tweezer and Trey's kind of zoning in on doing some of those repeated licks like you were talking about, Meg. And, he finds one, he fiddles with it for a couple minutes and everybody kind of finds their space around it and they shift for a couple to a new thing. And they do that for a while. And like 15 minutes in, they're in like it's a good little syncopated jam but it's still like notably Tweezer jam. Like if I played that, and if I don't know what clips you have queued, but if you queued around 15 minutes, you hear it to any Phish fan, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's probably Tweezer," and but that's not a bad thing, right? And it kind of 20 minutes. Actually, it's 20 minutes where they really are in that, but I think it's around 30 minutes where they really start to go like full weird. So you start to get the little more atonal stuff, and it starts to get a little more like increasingly interesting. A few minutes later, I mean, there's some peaks that are pretty intense, and Mike is right there peaking with Trey. You can hear how locked they are together, and the audience is way involved at that moment. Big, loud response, and another 5 minutes. There's another kind of roaring anthemic peak. That's like 38 minutes or so. Great stuff throughout. It's really fun to listen to.
Those crowd roars, we should just note the mix is picking them up extremely well throughout this whole tour in a way that I don't feel like I've heard on recent webcasts. Like the roars during the Simple at Alpine, and then what you're talking about at in St. Louis during the Tweezer. Like you felt like you were in the stadium. It was amazing how they were picking
at the Mohegan Sun most events.
Oh yeah, the explosion of the audience on that. I remember watching it on the webcast, and I know you talked about it. It's huge.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds amazing on the mix.
All right, well, let's listen to this. Is going back to 1842, not the year, the time in the Tweezer.
Because there's not a lot of Tweezers back in 1842.
It was actually the first Tweezer. It's the first one.
Played on a harpsichord.
I mean, that's what the hell's going on there, guys?
Like,
it sounds like
amazing.
a festival sound check.
Trey's
Yeah.
got a
Which is
little
like
delay
as loose
going,
as it
but
could be.
Paige is also following it. So on it, partially because the muddy of the mix through the webcast here that we're doing, like I can't quite discern which one of them is the delay.
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
one
it
is the
sounds better
keyboard.
not on the stream,
Yeah.
but it's so great because that's what I've been talking about. It would be like this normal, sunny, forward-moving bliss jam from Trey, but underneath they've got these really cool textures, and they're also playing with rhythm underneath the textures in a way that just sounds so different and unique. And it's just to me really fascinating how they're playing with this. Like, I think they used to just stick to more bliss jams that had like sunny optimism underneath them, and this is just such a different feeling, and it allows them to transition so fast, and they transition like right after that. It's just so cool.
Yeah, they found a place where they can kind of reach a peak that they sustain on, and it sounds like you're saying it has an optimistic tone of, you know, a summertime Fish jam that you just want to hear that just feels good. But something's happened with Mike Gordon where he's
Yes.
adding a lot underneath that just contrasts what's happening up top, and it is making for some music that when you re-listen to it, you hear things you did not hear in the moment. Like in the moment, you're like, wow, this Tweezer jam's cool. Oh man, here's another 5-minute segment of this Tweezer jam. Oh, here's a peak, you know, and like you're just taking it in as it's happening. And you go back and there's so much going on, and it's happening. These guys are doing it in the moment live. Like this isn't play it, go back, try to see what we can do again. This is 4 years now of kind of communication development in a really cool way.
Can I also add that, you know, I've heard some people comment that they're not hearing Mike or whatever. And if you're not hearing Mike when you're listening to the live Fish stuff, you need to check your playback. You need to check your speakers because he is mixed beautifully in these things. And he is critical to understanding what's happening in these moments.
Totally agree.
Yeah, he's having an amazing year. He sounds so good.
Yeah.
Plus, he wrote a killer song. Have you guys heard Human Nature? That's fucking rules.
Oh my God.
And this night he had his Ken shirt on, his shirt that he wore Wilmington night too. It's so good. That when he comes out and that shit is going to get real.
Let's go back to the tape. Let's see what else happens here.
Sounds like Tweezer.
Yeah.
That right there.
That is sick.
And this is the bit that leads to where it finally breaks into weird in about 2.5 minutes.
It's a mic.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So can I speak because I picked
please.
that site. Like that is, to me, we've talked long about this, but like that is the magic moment right there. It's not the peak, it's the transition. It's the jam could have very easily ended there. They had a natural conclusion point. Nobody is going to fault you for playing a 26.5-minute long tweezer. But Trey is listening to Mike and what he's doing, and he is adding ideas, he's adding a line, and they do this kind of 30-second regrouping, And then Trey picks up on that line that Mike has played. And within another 30 seconds, that becomes the defined melody. And that takes us into a new segment. Like that to me, more than anything, like that is the moment where you're going to hear me lose my mind, because it is active listening. It is active, like, hey, maybe there's a little bit more to say here. You know, it's always that notion of you're in a really good conversation with someone. It has to end at some point. But if someone says something that makes you want to keep talking to them, you keep the conversation going. And that is a really exciting moment just personally. And that is a really exciting moment musically. And you hear it right there. It happened like 3 or 4 other times in the jam, but like that one, that
is this the hey hole jamming, or you know, because
that's like, how I take it.
Yeah,
because it really does seem like they find a thing, and then it, you know, calms down, and then somebody adds a new thing, it shifts, and they all kind of move into that and continues, and just like pretty good music.
Yeah. And they do kind of like, I think several times in these big jams this tour so far, they've almost ended it and then having it, or maybe not almost, but they could have, and in some points would have.
Well, it's kind of like what wasn't happening at Alpine Night 3 that we were harping on a lot, but you know, Trey wasn't allowing those moments to settle and listen in the minute. So it's exciting to hear that he took our
notes. If he's not feeling it, that's, I mean, that's the requirement. Like, you know, somebody, I don't know, I think it's Phil Lesh who's like, if you're thinking about your equipment, you're not in the moment, you're not in the jam, you know. And there's any number of other things that could fill in the word for equipment. I would have to say that during this Tweezer, they're not thinking about it. They're completely in it, and it's really great to hear.
No, and these peaks, oh my god, like they're unbelievable.
Extremely well on peak. I do think like that's an interesting point about the equipment. I mean, obviously it could be a lot of things, but like they have noticeably changed their equipment on stage.
Trey must
tour.
be liking it for the most part, because he
hasn't really changed it since
for a few
Mohegan,
nights,
right? Yeah.
Has he had the same stuff since Mohegan?
I haven't seen any reports of changes since he put the Mesa Boogie head into the rack, got rid of the Comet head. So now he just has the 2 on stage, and he's still using the old speakers. And if he's happy, I'm happy.
Right.
So, okay. Should we talk about night 2?
I can't not say that despite probable expectations, Ether Edge is outstanding.
Yes. Thank you, Jonathan. I wanted to talk about that too.
Ether Edge.
Yeah,
and
good.
It transitions beautifully into a Piper that is, you know, if you just look at the timing, you're going to miss it. This Piper has actually got a great jam in it as well.
Very atypical Piper as well. Doesn't really drive forward. It kind of just settles in.
Pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, because they let the audience ring out after the Tweezer. It was about a 30 to 45 second applause.
It's not a transition to Ether Edge, but it's like...
And I was like, okay, what are they going to play next? I kind of figured a ballad, because we just got in a 40-minute jam. And I thought it was a really big moment for Ether Edge, a song that has been played now, like 5 or 6 times. I think I've seen it twice, and it's been played in a slot that didn't feel in the moment like it like worked with the flow, and it's really important for a ballad to do that. And this one felt perfectly placed. And then, oh my god, are we at a Goose show? They're jamming ballads? What the hell is going on right now?
It's incredible. So good. And this song is absolutely gorgeous, and this is like a 14-minute version of it. It's not the longest one you're going to see. Like, this song's going to go, and this is another example of that bliss jamming with something underneath it. And I also agree that the Piper jam is so emotional. Trey's playing with so much emotion in that jam. It's really, really beautiful. And Benjamin online, said that he thought that the peaking and the soloing that Trey's doing in Piper sounds kind of like Caspian and Fluffhead. And it really does. If you listen to it, it really has those elements. And I thought that was really astute, but really just incredible that they're playing this kind of stuff, and they're continuing to stretch stuff out after doing 40 minutes of jamming. Like, and then just have to say, like, perfect encore. This show is like top to bottom, just, I think, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, Tweezer through Piper is like a 65-minute segment that I think you should take as a whole.
Yeah.
The Piper jamming, a lot of people were trying to peg it to like some song from the 70s or the 80s, like Angel in the Morning or whatever, and the melody doesn't really land quite on any of those things that people were suggesting to me. But I agree that it does kind of sound like the the Fluffhead peak progression. It's not Fluffhead, but it's also not exactly Piper, except that it is. It's Piper. And it's delightful.
It sounded like Mike was playing something, but I think he was just playing.
It sounded like Trey was too, but it may be that just they found a thing that kind of was working, and it may not be.
Maybe it'll be a song eventually. Maybe it's a future song.
Ooh, future song, one of my favorites.
You know, yep, it's a good one. All right. Speaking of the future, then the next day they played again. He's like that.
What?
He's like that segue. It's pretty good.
2 shows.
2 shows. This first set, I listened to the whole set this morning, and like it was really fun to listen to. I mean, there wasn't really anything of note necessarily, but I thought it was like nothing was like pushing me to stop listening to it. I had fun listening to it.
Like, can I ask? I'm totally with you. Can I ask? Did anybody find any flaws? Like, did they botch Pebbles intro or anything like that? Like, I thought it was kind of like what I said about the first night. This first set is just nice versions. I think Hey Stranger demonstrates that song has a good future.
Yeah.
Because it's type 1. They don't go out or anything, but they ride it for a little bit. It's real nice. But like I really enjoyed listening to everything in this. I thought it was all played nice, played well, and good songs, well played. What a bummer.
It felt a bit like a throwback first set in that sense, like where it was just like you said, good songs, well played. It felt very much like a first set, and how we came to define first sets for a long time, that it was kind of the introduction to the show in a sense. I had no real objections. I don't know how much I'll go back and listen. I did like the Boogie On. I thought the extended back end to the Boogie On was really cool, but this is kind of where you start to get into these rare songs. I'm just pulling up the gap chart. You've got 19 shows since Turtle in the Clouds, 12/30/23, 48 since Lawn Boy, 7/19/23, 41 for Horn, 7/29/23, 22 for Pebbles, 10/15/23, and 43 for Boogie On, 7/26/23. So like not huge gaps, not bust outs, not 50 show pluses, songs that we would assume are in the rotation, but are not, because there are so many songs that are working for the band right now. So just kind of cool to get that mixed in there.
And I think you had dropped out when I said this before, but like the 40 show gap, that's still just last year. 55 shows for Mr. Completely is April of 2023.
Yeah.
Well, I think those averages would be even higher, but they're playing the Evolve songs like more often too, which I think is affecting like the average. But the first night they
push old ones back.
Yeah, exactly. And the first night they played 7 songs they hadn't played this year. And this night, I think it's really interesting thinking about Hey Stranger too. I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jonathan, because I was looking at it, and the last 2 times it's been played, that middle jam is getting stretched out. And it's like the first time it was played, it was like 6 minutes, then it was 7 minutes, then it was 8. And then, it's been getting a little bit longer. The last 2 times have been over 10 minutes. And I think it's just interesting. I think we're going to get like a 20-minute Hey Stranger. Like
it's going to take the Down with Disease slot and open set 2 at Bethel, and everybody's going to go nuts.
It's so good, and it has just such an easy swagger to it, and I think it's a cool song, and I'm excited to see its evolution. But yeah, I agree. Great first set, well played. I think the flow has been continued to be excellent, and even in this set too, really great flow. And you're never going to hear me complain about Horn and Boogie On in a set. Like, yes, please.
Right.
I think the one thing that's surprising about this tour to me so far is that I chose 16 minutes because it helps make this point. But if I were placing a wager before the tour and said 10 shows in, would there be more or less than 4 16-minute jams in the first set? I would definitely take the over. But there's only been 4, which I think is kind of surprising.
Yeah,
but there's been a lot of big jams in the second sets.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just sort of like how they treat the first sets. They are, like Brian said, being treated a little bit more as like,
first sets,
throwbacks,
as opposed to like, what we've seen the past few years, which is like So you might get a 30-minute jam in the first set, which I don't care either way. I just think it's an interesting.
It'll be interesting to see how
change.
that evolves as we go towards Mondegreen, because they're playing at a level right now that would lead you to think that the festival is going to be very locked in, and that's that's probably on their mind in some cases of just like how they want to be playing at that point in time. And we have Deer Creek coming up. We've got a return to Grand Rapids. We've got Bethel, which is a venue that they seem to really love. Are those the only shows before Mondegreen? And then we got Dick's. And then they're off until New
once
Year's
they
Eve.
get to Mondegreen,
this is it.
The structures, they'll throw those out to a degree. They'll have a schedule, but they'll throw some of those. I think they're more likely to throw the structures out. But I mean, whatever, a songy first set without deep jams work for the Grateful Dead.
Yeah,
it'll work for
them. There's nothing, and we can have this conversation without it being seen as a complaint. It's just an interesting break from the past couple of years. But in this second set last night, they did play long jams again, just like the night before, and that is something else. This Mr. Completely, I just want to to me, when I was listening to it, and I've listened to it a couple times, it sounds way more like interplay between the band members than it does like a jam. And I don't know why I think that.
I can hear that. That's interesting. I can hear that.
I guess it just felt like they were maybe it's more like you said, like about a previous jam, Jonathan, that it's like a sound check jam. It just sounds like they're listening to each other and like playing back and forth with each other than driving a full band idea forward, which I kind of like. I like it, but I don't know. That's just that was my thought listening to it the first time.
I definitely hear that. I definitely hear. I mean, this is one of those jams that I love these jams because I can't totally figure them out.
Yeah.
Structurally, it doesn't really follow that structure of building to a closing peak. There's some really cool stuff around 12, 13 minutes where you hear kind of mic change things under the surface and you hear the band listening to each other. We said this earlier about the Tweezer, the sound check quality. It seems like Trey was once interviewed about the 59-minute Worcester Gym, and he talked about how when he listens back to it, it sounds like a band playing in a living room without any sort of concern about a crowd that they're supposed to be entertaining. And it almost feels like 27 years later, they've reached a point where they can play they can sound like they're playing in the living room, but it's also really entertaining. There's no okay, that segment way too long. They kind of know when to hop from something to the other, and they just sound really comfortable in terms of, like you said, Meg, moving with just really, really quick speed from one idea to the other, balancing two concepts out.
When it's hitting, it's hitting. They hit this. This is this perfect example of a very Fish jam thing that they do at 5:45 in this Mr. Completely. Trey just lets off the gas, he's been driving, working the theme, working the song until at about this point he's just whoop, and it gets kind of relaxed. It's okay, we're done. We don't have to play the song. We can just play.
There was that in the Ruby Waves. If they release that, or if you guys have access to watch the video of it, I would recommend it, because that's another song. Mr. Completely and Ruby Waves are similar in the sense that both of them are a 2-minute long song, and then they jump into a jam, and they're driving. But Trey, the camera was just on him, and he's just going back and forth between two notes on the neck of his guitar. He has no rush. He doesn't care if anyone in the audience wants him to get somewhere. He's just in this musical space. That is, you're just watching someone who has no schedule to adhere to, and that just blows me away.
There's this other point that I texted you guys about it this afternoon, but there's this other bit in this kind of late in the Mr. Completely, around 19 minutes or so, where Trey and Paige both lock into this bit that's it sounds like a scale or interval exercise, because it totally is. So Andrew North is a piano player, he's a piano teacher. He's in a band called Andrew North and the Rangers. He pointed this out, and they're actually doing exercise number 2 from Hannon's The Virtuoso Pianist, which is, a teaching book that lots of piano teachers, including himself, use. He's like, I did not expect to hear this in a Mr. Completely. And he sent me a YouTube link, and like, it's that progression, and it's like a scale kind of interval keyboard exercise, and Trey and Paige are just locked in on it for a couple minutes. It's really cool.
So cool. It is cool because it is the same. When you sent it, I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's neat. Yeah, there's such a feeling. I agree, Brian. I couldn't get my head around this jam. I've listened to it a few times and I couldn't decide like ultimately how to describe it, but I feel like it's a bit of a tug of war between light and dark. And there's just a lot of that, the echoing between Paige and Trey, and so much of the repetitive licks again, kind of like reminding me a little bit of parts of the Tweezer jam, but it also gets really, really dark in a way that the Tweezer jam didn't. It got more weird, the Tweezer jam, but the Ruby Waves, this jam is so interesting to me. I felt like there were so many moments that I heard new things I have not heard before. Fishman, like we've been talking about, he continues to like lay down that like rolling foundation that's just keeping everything moving. But the textures right off the bat are so interesting. And there's this like dark underworld feeling to it. And then at like 10:42, Trey's doing this, and maybe it's what you're talking about, Brian. He's doing this weird thing, and maybe it's going between the two notes, but I don't hear him do this a lot. And his guitar sounds different. It has like a mean and kind of snarly tone to it. It's not that usual Trey, like bright, shiny tone. And the jam does end in optimism, but it's really just like rhythmic and layered. And there's just like this melodic feeling to it that is just so interesting. And I wish I think I need more time to kind of articulate what's different about it, but there's definitely a different feeling to this jam for me.
Let's listen to one small piece of it, and then we'll see what everyone else thinks. Can we do that?
Cool. Do it,
please. I mean, by everyone else, I mean whoever listens to this and then writes us and tells us what they think. So I'm looking at you, everybody.
Fishman, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
He's one of the rare humans who can play drums and it sounds like it's drums on a delay. Like, what?
Crazy.
Like, yeah. He plays a drum and it sounds like he's playing with a slapback delay. Meanwhile, Trey is actually, using his delays. And what is Paige is on the electric piano or piano?
Yeah.
I can't quite tell on the tonal,
I think it's electric.
Here, but, so it's so beautiful the way that kind of just glides over Trey's weird guitar loops and stuff. It's super great.
Can we talk about the Ruby Waves in a little bit more detail? Because I think
can I shout out the twist that precedes it, because I really like this twist. It's not like monumental, it's not a big jam, but I think this twist stands as an avatar for a lot of songs like Twist this summer that are just reliable bangers. And this twist, just like the one, what was it, Great Woods or whatever, reliable banger, just great. And so keeps everything really going. And then we get to Ruby Waves, which is awesome.
Santana vibes in that twist for me,
as usual. I mean, he's so good.
So
thank you.
This Ruby Waves, again, Ruby Waves continues to deliver some very interesting jams. Always, maybe.
Yeah, top notch.
Percentage is pretty high.
Good batting average.
Yeah, it's damn good. Okay, so I wanted to let me just play this one piece that I think you're hearing, and this is a little bit different than what you were saying, Megan, but I feel like we're hearing different things from Trey at different times. And I really I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but I feel like he's using more like direct, maybe this has to do with the equipment stuff that you were talking about, Jonathan, but he's using more like just guitar effects as opposed to sound effects, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Yeah.
Like he sounds like a person who has a guitar pedal, not like a, whatever he typically has here. Let's just do that. Let's do this.
That is so sick.
I mean, that's like the kind of shit that catches my attention.
Right. So there was a point, was it last year when like Paige, Trey, and Mike are all using synthesizer things and you could almost not tell who's doing what.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fun and cool as a road to go down once or a couple of times maybe. But the reality is Trey's a guitar player and he plays the guitar sounds in this band that has one guitar. And, and so I'd live for him to do that and play with the loops. And I don't mind the synthesizer now and then, but this is the meat. And Megan, you made a reference to how at one point, as you said this earlier, it sounded like his guitar was more like snarling, or maybe you didn't use that word, but it translated to that in my brain head. Yeah. And I'm dying to know the routing. Like, is he switching between these amps? Because the Trainwreck amp, the one he's been relying on the most for the past few years, has a very certain distinct sound. And the Mesa Boogie head that he's now running again has also a very distinct sound. It's the one he was using all the way back in the 80s and in the 90s. It's a classic Trey Anastasio sound. And there's an old rig rundown where he talks about it and he's like, yeah, people say this thing's terrible, but I think that it's not about how good your gear is, it's about how well you know it. And so it's a thing he is super familiar with and comfortable with, which just thrills me that he brought it back. But I want to know what's going where, when. Like, is he switching between them? Are they driving them both? Like, how is he doing that? Because whatever it is, however he's doing it, I love it. It just sounds so good.
I think it'd be interesting to bring back Ryan Chicheri, Trey's guitar rig, which we did in the Dick's lot, and we did during one of the past Undermine seasons, and have him do kind of a 4.0 little tutorial for us about kind of where we're going. Because I think you're absolutely right. It felt for a while like Trey was trying to make his guitar sound not like a guitar, and it helped their jamming. It helped to push their jamming in a different direction. But at some point, he is one of the best guitarists living today. He's really unique in terms of his overall guitar sound, and having that be a dominating force within some of these jams, which I really felt like you heard in the Mr. Completely and in the Ruby Waves in particular, is a welcome sign as kind of the band continues to move through. One point I'll just make about this Ruby Waves from just a set structure standpoint. For me, if you get a jam of this quality after a jam of the Mr. Completely quality early in the set, you're basically getting a 40-minute jam across two different songs with both the Mr. Completely and the Ruby Waves, and it just adds a little bit extra, to the overall flow of the set, the overall arc of the set, and the overall feel of the show. Because oftentimes when they find that jam in another song a few songs later, they're quicker to get to the weirdness, and they're quicker to get to a bit more risk taking because they've already kind of set the foundation through the first jammed out song. So I'm here for this like you guys said, every time they play Ruby Waves, it seems to lead to magic. And this one in particular, I think this is one of the stronger ones we've heard this year, along with the version from Mexico, which I highly encourage people to go back and check out if they haven't.
It also makes a case for just to remind people that a great jam doesn't have to be 20 plus minutes.
Correct.
Yeah, it can be 18.
Exactly.
It's 18 now.
1937, and it's
Megan,
great.
Megan, you had a clip here, right?
I think so. Didn't you play? I just wanted to tell you the last clip that you played, that was the other one I was going to send you today. It's like,
Oh, it was?
doo-doo,
No way.
yeah, yeah.
Look at us. Look
Good
at us.
shit.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Let's listen to one more from the fish that Megan pointed out here. Yeah. Shit.
Ugh,
Sorry
yeah,
to cut
like,
that off, but that's, you know.
no, that's where it changes. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Like that's that repetitive, lick Trey's using to kind of push it forward. And I love how it sounds like they're just in this like stew. It's like so sticky and like monster and gooey sounding. And they're just like pushing forward. And I think what they're doing underneath that is just, it's crazy sounding. It's so good.
It's a really
quite
good band,
good.
you guys.
They're quite good.
Good. I'm going to say that I'm going to jump to something,
We
and then
agree.
Jonathan's going to note another song that in between what I'm going to say. But I just want to say that there was a very soulful way to close out the two nights with the Hood encore. It was really nice version. I thought it was like a really good, strong closing to the 2-night run. I feel like that sets up
the grind
really well.
shows some real
See?
deep.
Yeah.
It was
I actually
funny. Prison
I like the
joke.
whole encore. Let's credit Fish for having the good sense and the maturity to not want to revisit the prison joke.
Well, Trey did. Trey wanted to.
Trey's always in for a joke. Fishman was like, I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah. Not today, anyway.
Not going to make it a St. Louis alive.
Not on a stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Hood is there's a bit of a diversion within it, and it comes to a really, really gorgeous, really heartfelt peak. First Miss You in 45 shows, so another one of those, first one in a year.
I missed it.
That is I'm here for that ballad. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Really nice to play that
Great song.
right before Jerry's birthday. Really nice to just like give that vibe out there. And then closing with Hood in an encore. Like, I'll take Harry Hood at any point in the show. I don't care. But like, Hood is the last song that you hear the band
Yes.
play. If these are the only two shows you're seeing, I don't think there's a better way to go off. Maybe Slave, but like Harry Hood it closes a show out where you feel like I just saw something that really mattered.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So guys, we got 3 nights of Deer Creek. Sorry, we already had 3 nights of Alpine. We have 3 nights of Deer Creek coming up starting tomorrow, and then we got Brian ran this down earlier, but we basically are like, we're turning the corner on the summer tour here, but which
2
is
weeks from
kind of
Monogreen.
crazy. 2 weeks from Monogreen. Fish is letting us know that there's 2 weeks to Monogreen on the internet and email, and reminding us that Monogreen is happening. So
Green happening.
It's definitely happening. It's
So
definitely
far.
happening, and many people are going, and including Megan. Congrats, Megan.
Thanks.
Many people are saying that RJ should be going.
People are saying this,
I-
including Megan.
I've seen talk of this on the internet.
I know.
Many
Doing my
people are
best.
saying it. It's very close to you geographically.
It is. That's part of what makes it challenging, which I know is hard for people to understand, but it
I
actually,
kind of get that.
Because it's like it should be easy, but it's never is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's no.
I
get you.
We're okay. We got 10 shows down. We got 12 shows left. What do you guys? Do you have any last thoughts? Because we're going to be back the next week to recap both Deer Creek and Grand Rapids. What else? What do you want to leave people with? What do you got?
I feel bad for everybody going to Deer Creek because the good shows just happened. So obviously slump time, right?
For sure.
No, I think Fish is playing really well, and I think Deer Creek's going to be fun and hot and hydrate people, but have a good time.
Brian, will we see the return of the first set 20 or 30-minute jam at Deer Creek, do you think?
I think that Deer Creek could be the place that we see something like that happen. It just, historically speaking, they tend to walk on stage there and feel really comfortable. There have been some very big shows there. There have been some shows where they've pissed in the ears of their audience. But you know,
it's true.
It's if you can make it in there unscathed, man, it's a great place to see a concert. It's got awesome sound. The vibes are very high, aside from the fact that they don't sell water past halfway through the second set on 100-degree nights. I'll never forgive you, water delivery guy, on 8/12/2010. I really needed it. He said, we're all out. And I said, you have a cooler right here. Can I just have one? No. I think we're in a very good place.
Grudge, you know,
not hold a grudge at all.
Oh, I have a grudge about Deer Creek too, but then we'll save that for another night. Yeah, but I'm never going back.
Great.
I think I'll just say that I feel really good about where the tour is at right now. I think we had some questions coming out of Alpine. I think a lot of those questions were answered in St. Louis. It's obviously an evolving tour. We don't know what's to come, but the way that we just heard them play the last two shows, it'd be strange to not hear that kind of music again.
Yeah.
All right. Megan, what do you think? You got anything to add?
No, I agree. Legendary venue. Fish is playing a great tour. I'd be pumped. I wish I was going to Deer Creek. It's going to be amazing.
Totally.
Jonathan, you're always one to do Fish predictions. Do you have any for us?
Obviously, they're going to bring back Rhinoceros.
Oh God! Oh God!
Obviously,
oh my God!
That would be so sick, though.
Please, my God!
No, I have no predictions for you. I just know that they're playing well, so it'll probably be pretty good.
Yep.
I don't have predictions either, but I did predict the Tweezer. I just wanted credit for that.
Well, that was
due.
Yeah, sorry, Megan. I mean,
sorry.
Megan,
this weekend too obvious to count.
Great job.
This weekend would be a great time to drop a surprise box set of 8/10/97, 8/3/98, 7/25/99, and 7/11/2000.
I think they might just be never doing that specifically because we keep talking about it.
No, it's against us now.
That's why I'm not talking about that one song that I haven't talked about.
Yeah, good. Keep it to yourself.
Done.
Smart.
It's over.
All right, guys, we're going to see you next week.
Yourself on a podcast.
One more reminder: if you're still listening and you're going to Grand Rapids, that means that you're a big fan. So come see us at Founders on Wednesday. And Ryan, who's watching, have fun at Deer Creek, and all you go in there, just have fun, hydrate, take care of each other out there. See you next week.
Bye, everybody. See you in Grand Rapids.